All right. Hey, this is DD with another cryptocurrency and blockchain update. So today I have a special guest. I have Wes Levitt with Theta Network. Theta, welcome to the call.
Hey, Dave, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, so tell me if you don't mind, or tell my viewers a little bit about your background and what you do at Theta TV.
Yeah, sure. So my background, I've been, I'd say personally into crypto since about 2015, 2016. But back at that time, originally, my background's in finance and real estate finance specifically. So I worked at mortgage REITs and a real estate private equity firm for a few years. Um, and was sort of just doing crypto on the side, like a lot of us before we got into the space full time. I was in business school at Berkeley in 2015, around the time that blockchain at Berkeley started there, and Dawn Song from Oasis Labs was teaching her blockchain courses, and really started taking it more seriously as something to jump into full time. And around that time, I got introduced to the Theta team, who I was actually just about to start the Theta project back in, let's see, I guess this is mid 2017. And kind of by way of background, this is when Theta TV, before the Theta network and the Theta blockchain, was trying to solve their own problem of CDN costs for pushing high definition and VR costs, VR video around the world. And so the Theta blockchain is basically a way to solve that problem they had themselves. And I joined the team in late 2017 to advise when they were getting that off the ground, and then joined full time in February of 2018. And so, very small company, especially in the beginning. And now we're about 25 people. So it's kind of a role where you wear a lot of hats. But I say the easiest way to describe it is I handle a lot of our business strategy, marketing, community communications, and also press relations.
Okay, awesome. So I assume, Wes, there's never a dull moment in the office these days. Is that correct?
No, well, we're never in the office these days, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're in I see your background. Okay, you're not in the office.
We're still on shelter in place, although we think they're finally coming out of that pretty soon.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, like it always was, still today, and like in crypto in general, there's never a dull moment, which is, really part of what appealed to me, making the move from kind of more of a staid real estate environment I was in my career up till now, until something like Theta, where there's just a lot of space to be creative and solve problems that really on a day-to-day basis, we're kind of figuring things out as we go along, as we're building new parts of a protocol that have never been built before, or trying to solve a problem in video delivery that just doesn't exist yet. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's never a dull moment, and that can be stressful or taxing at times, but that's also the appeal of it.
Yeah. Well, now with all this lockdown, unfortunately, this is going on, and fortunately, it's going to come to an end, I hope, very soon. But let's say it doesn't, or let's say if there's a future lockdown or whatever. I mean, would this be a boost to your project? Because I mean, it seems like there's more people watching Netflix now, more people watching YouTube now, because they can't leave their house. Now, and I guess VR is going to play a big part of this too. How do you guys see this coming into the future with all this going on?
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. In the short term, there was a boost to Theta TV traffic of I think around 30%, just as at least in the US, just everyone was at home. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like the obvious way we'd benefit from it. But I think long term is more important, because it's not just that whether there's another lockdown and people are at home more often. It's just that this is kind of a wake up call to a lot of people and a lot of companies that were maybe dipping a toe in work from home and communicating via Zoom or via Google Meet or something like that, to realizing they didn't have a choice but to learn that we can actually function this way pretty easily. Mm-hmm. So whether it's more telecommuting half the week, or just getting used to video content being kind of the natural way that you consume content, either for fun or for work, that's more of a long-term driver that's going to expand video online in general. And of course, if we can continue to make a more efficient way to deliver that video, then we can benefit from that as well as a project.
Okay, awesome. So speaking of VR, so I know that Samsung VR is a backer of the Theta project. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So Samsung Next, their VC arm, had invested in Theta Labs in 2017, originally in the seed round, I believe it was. And then last year, as part of a secondary raise we did.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
What do you see the future of VR? What do you guys see? How your involvement with that obviously would be to make VR more efficient to use globally. But what other roles do you think you guys will be playing with VR?
Yeah, so it actually, VR was a much bigger focus for Theta TV initially in 2016, 2017, when it first got off the ground, actually previously known as Sliver TV. Originally it was the focus of it, and the company actually holds, I believe, 4 patents around VR video delivery for constructing ways that they were broadcasting these VR esports tournaments and having live cameras inside the game effectively that had never been done before. But in 2017, especially, there just hasn't enough adoption of VR headsets. So it was a very cool experience. And for the, call it, 5 or 10,000 of people that owned the physical device to use it, they all loved it. But there's just not enough market penetration of the devices themselves. And you don't get the same experience when you have your phone, it plugged into the headset. You really need the high-end one to feel it.
Yeah.
So, we're kind of packed that away and changed a little bit to focus more on just high def, standard type video. But we kind of always think that we have the skills to do that and have that in our back pocket. And we're just waiting for VR adoption to catch up to that. And I think a lot of different things will have to come together, but it's getting there slowly. When you see like the new Oculus devices, they're getting both higher quality and cheaper, like everything every electronics device over time.
Right.
And then with 5G, I'm sure that'll be a tailwind as well, just because it's that much easier to push these huge amounts of data. And we want ourselves to be one of the drivers of that too, because if you can deliver all that VR data to, let's say, a cluster of users all in the same VR environment in the same city, and they can share that peer-to-peer over Theta network, just like we wanted to solve that for our own video platform. We think we can be one of the technologies that combine to make VR get closer to that level where it's easier for mass adoption.
Okay, and you mentioned 5G, and a lot of people ask me about how is 5G going to affect Theta, or how is Theta going to affect 5G? Is 5G a threat to Theta network, et cetera? What are your thoughts on that? Does Theta actually complement 5G?
Yeah, we think it does, and we've had some talks about this with some telecoms, and very early stage, obviously, especially in the U.S., since we don't even have a real 5G. I don't think the 5G that's rolled out yet is. I think it's more of a marketing thing than anything, but we're getting closer. And the reason why we think it can work very complementary with Theta is that there's a really obvious use case for 5G download, because people download more and more content across their various screens, and it's more and more higher definition. So it's just more data to be pushed. So it's pretty obvious why me sitting at home, I would benefit from 5G, or watching video on my phone. There's not a really obvious killer app for 5G upload speeds. I mean, for yourself, you may be one of the exceptions if you're live streaming directly to like your YouTube channel, because you actually are pushing a lot of data, but it tends to be a lot more people downloading and uploading. I think Theta can fill that gap and be something that the 5G carriers can actually offer, to say that when you have these much faster upload speeds than you ever did, this is what you can use it for. So there's actually a reason to have that for the average person who just has their device acting as a node on Theta network and relaying. Whereas now, you or I normally wouldn't upload much from our phone.
Right. Okay. When do you see the adoption of like the smart TVs, like the Samsung smart TVs? I've got a few here in this apartment. And I understand, and I did a video about it as well, how smart TVs are going to be integrated into the Theta network, and people will be able to earn TFuel just by watching television. Now, when do you see that happening?
Yeah, that's something we think is really interesting, just because you already have such a large pre-installed base, and if you can integrate at that level, then and make Theta part of that from day one, then it handles a lot of the distribution for you. And so we did a video you may have seen of when we were featured at a Samsung conference back in November of 2019, where we were demoing how it works inside the Samsung smart TVs, and then also connected to a Samsung laptop nearby, and also a Samsung phone, and can relay data all three between those over Theta network. So we're still at work with them on that, although we're finding it's a lot bigger task than to get through basically the buy-in necessary to have something that's included in millions of TVs as they're distributed. It'd be a huge payoff when we can pull it off, but they don't do it. They don't do it on a whim. Let's say this. So there's been a whole lot of work we've had to do to get buy-in on that, and we're still working on that right now.
Okay.
But that's the big prize, obviously, because it's really, instead of incrementally adding users to the network as we are now, and it's continually growing, but at a kind of a linear pace. If in one shot you can get integrated at that level with smart TVs all across the board, it'd be enormous. And in parallel, we are working on other ways to sort of jump onto that. Like you've seen we did a Theta TV app for Android TV, and so anyone can go to the Android Play Store and download that, and it's specifically for Theta TV. But it's in some ways it's not just another distribution channel for Theta TV. In some ways, it's also for us basically a way to show what's possible. So then now we can point to that. So when we have these discussions with smart TV manufacturers, it's easier than just showing a slide that says, trust us, we can do this, it's technically possible. We can show them right then, download the Android TV app right now, and we'll show you it's already possible. So then at least that jumpstarts the conversation, and it's a little easier demo to show them, or a more effective demo.
Okay, so the integration with Samsung Smart TVs probably going to happen. It's just a matter of time. I mean, this is a 2021 project.
It's definitely not this year, but yeah, I don't want to speculate too much since we've found with Samsung about how many layers it takes to get through things. But yeah, it's definitely a longer term prospect.
Okay. Now, what about understand the Samsung smartphones as well is going to have in the future, like the Galaxy 20s are going to have Theta TV pre-installed. Is that correct in the future, or?
Yeah, so they've revamped the specific Samsung app that is coming pre-installed in, which so that's it might look a little different than what we sort of previewed, but it's basically they have what they call a -1 screen. So if you're on your home screen of your phone, if you scroll left instead of right, it's sort of your news feed. The other phones have something similar to it,
right?
Like your iPhone has one where it shows news, weather, and so on.
Right.
So they want to be content focused. So instead of sort of boring stats about like what the weather is, what the stock market's doing to them, they want it to be engaging content right out of the gate. The idea that more time on it. So Theta TV, we've fully developed an app that fits in their -1 screen called Samsung Daily. And that's in the pipeline to be in one of the updates that they'll push to the Samsung Daily.
Okay, good. So that is in the works, and that is going to happen eventually.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm familiar with the -1 screen. It really irritates me because I inadvertently hit that to go to the other side, and it's hard to get out of it. Now, if they have some engaging content like Theta TV, that's going to change everything. And then, because like you said, right now it's news, which I don't watch the mainstream news ever, and I get stuck on this screen. I'm like, what is this? That would be great when Theta TV is there, because then that might actually might hook me in. I'm like, hey, look at this. We've got a live streamer here who I'm familiar with, at least talking whatever. And that's great. That's really good news. So this is not just going to be on the Samsung Galaxy 20. I think it's going to be on existing some of the older Samsungs with the Daily app, Samsung Daily app. Is that right?
Yeah, it'll push to anything that has Samsung Daily in it.
Okay, that's great. Good news. All right, looking forward to that. Now I know you've got so video on demand. I know I talked about it in my last my YouTube video that you're going to have an official launch in about a week. Tell us about VOD. Tell me, if you would, how this is going to be a game changer, and in your own words, how is this going to change everything?
Yeah, the easiest way to describe it is it just opens up Theta to a lot more content than it was before. So we started in live streaming because that's our background, and that's what Theta TV's original content was esports. It still is probably you could say dominated by esports, but it expanded a lot to crypto content, to classic movies with MGM, with NASA, with the NASA TV feed. but it come from esports as kind of the DNA of the video we push, and it's all live, or primarily live, the most exciting videos. And so when we first started solving this problem for ourselves and building Theta Protocol, our focus is always, how do we create a peer-to-peer video delivery network for live streaming? And so that's a lot of our focus was, how do we make this as low latency as possible? How do we split video segments even thinner so that you can get them as quickly as possible from your group of peers around you, so that there's not a lag? Because if you're watching something live, obviously you don't want to wait a minute while you grab video from peers around you. That said, if you take the whole universe of video content out there, live streaming is probably a pretty small slice compared to, or I should say, is a pretty small slice compared to VOD content. So, whether it's YouTube or even, while Twitch is more known for live streaming, they still have an enormous VOD library of all the video on demand of prior live streams. And then you get into, of course, Netflix and Amazon Prime and everything. And so while it made sense to focus on live streaming first for our site and what we were trying to solve, as we start shifting more of the focus to exporting this technology, basically, and getting other video platforms to adopt it, video on demand becomes a lot more important. And then, frankly, even for Theta TV, we were getting an overwhelming number of requests of people that are coming over that want to have their VODs over there. And that was actually a sticking point for them making the jump from, say, YouTube to Theta TV. So we finally made it a priority, and also at a technical level worked out a way so that the backbone of what happens with Theta Network, where you and I can relay video between each other and earn TFuel for that to work in a context of video on demand as well. And actually the launch will actually be happening on the 15th of this month. I don't know when you're actually putting out your video, but tomorrow for us here.
It's 15 right now.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah, now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. Now, so you mentioned Netflix. Do you see like potential, like a Netflix thing going on with it? Like, do you see that potential? Also, do you see the quality of like any movies? Would it be the same quality of like Netflix movies that'll be on Theta TV?
As far as the actual, are you talking about like cinematic quality, or the data quality?
Yeah, data quality, the video quality. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so it's not a barrier to for it to be on Theta Network, for it to be too high quality. And maybe it helped to back up a little bit and explain for those of your viewers that don't know that the network primarily works in conjunction with your existing CDN, like your Akamai or AWS. So it doesn't replace it entirely. It's more like an augment that, well, for example, on Theta TV, we still use Google now after our deal with them. It's all Google on our back end, and 50, 60, 70% of the video segments that get pushed are over Theta Network. But if there's a situation where you're watching a stream on there, and for whatever reason the peers in your area drop off, or they're not quick enough to send you a video segment within a matter of milliseconds, I believe it is, to make sure there's no buffering for you, it'll just default back to the CDN for a couple video segments. And each video segment, we're talking 2 to 3 seconds. So, very quickly and seamlessly, it can hop back and forth. So it'll try to pull as much as it can from the peer-to-peer network, because that's less costly and more efficient for us. But that said, if you can't get it from one of your neighbors nearby, it doesn't mean you get a buffering screen, because that's like the kiss of death for video platforms. When a user sees that, they say, I hate this site, I'm not coming back.
Right.
Much better that they just pull a few segments from the CDN and then come back to the peer-to-peer network as soon as possible. So for a Netflix or something like that, and related, that is an absolute hard requirement for someone like them to use this type of peer-to-peer network, because they don't care if you're saving them money. If there's buffering screens all over the place, then it's a total non-starter for them to use this.
Sure.
So even if it's a very high quality stream or a lot of data being driven, and let's say it's a little harder than average for your peers nearby to get you those video segments as quickly as possible, the blow-off valve, so to speak, is you would just get less from the Theta network, and maybe the offload percentage to the peer-to-peer network would drop from 60 or so to 40 or something. But it would, that's where you would have slippage. You would never have like the data quality drop or the user have buffering or have a worse experience in that case.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So do you see now the way, I'm on Theta TV right now, theta.tv/crazy for cryptos. I'm there now. I've got 16, 18 videos on there right now. Now I like the layout. I know this is still beta, that you guys are still messing with it, and it seems like there's a change every week or so, but I like where it's headed. To me, it has a YouTube feel about it, and there's probably a reason for that. It kind of reminds me of YouTube 15 years ago. I mean, VOD it's brand new. There's not many videos on there now. Do you see this kind of being like a YouTube alternative or competitor? I mean, I know you guys have partnered with Google. You don't want to be competitors necessarily, but how do you see this relation to YouTube?
Yeah, so we definitely think that there's room enough for many video platforms, and it's not necessarily that we are trying to go after YouTube. Obviously, we're working closely with Google and on some new initiatives with them that we're hoping to bring public in the near to mid future. So we're certainly not trying to go after YouTube or say anything so terrible about them. It's more that we think that there's more space for more streamers, and there's going to be ever more video content coming online, new streamers producing content. There's space for both of us. We think there's some room for a gap between YouTube and Theta TV, because we do have different priorities in some sense. Like, you may have found on some of your streams as especially the ones focusing on crypto, that YouTube is shadow banning or demonetizing them. And from what I can tell, it doesn't even seem like they just have it out for crypto. To some extent, they're just so big that they can only make these wide arcing rules, and it'd simply be impossible at their scale to be going in and watching, saying this one's a scam, watching Digital Dave stream and saying, oh, it's not a scam. They can only make a rule that says no advertising on everything that's related to this subject. Yeah. So because of that, I think it's less of an argument against YouTube and more of an argument against only having one possible outlet for streamers to go to and for users to watch content. So we see Theta TV as a content with a somewhat different focus and a differentiator, and that it's powered by Theta and that you can earn just for watching and relaying. But we don't think of it as a YouTube killer. And frankly, a lot of platforms have tried to actually do that and go for the throat of it. And even with a $500 million budget, it's not happening. So we think it's a better strategy to differentiate and carve out what we think is a good showcase for Theta technology with Theta TV. And as you probably guessed, at least part of it's because we see our underlying infrastructure with Theta Network and the Theta blockchain is something that we want YouTube and Twitch and Amazon to adopt, not to kill them off. It's something where we want to work to get. We see them much more as potential collaborators than competitors.
Yeah, though. So there's synergy. Obviously, there's synergy opportunities for them to use the Theta CDN, the Theta network, and reduce their CDN costs. How are you guys, speaking of CDN costs, are you guys actively going out and trying to get people to use the Theta network at this point, or is it too early for that, to people to onboard your network and reduce their content delivery costs?
Yeah, we are. I would say the strategy, it plays a little differently depending on exactly what video platforms you're going after. Because let's say like a smaller one like us, or like for some examples like that have started using it, like Movie Block in Korea, right? They are sort of in the same predicament that we found ourselves in, and they see the benefit of it immediately, and CDN costs are a huge sticking point for them now. And especially the ones that are crypto native, that's one hurdle they don't have to get over. So then it's they're either already adopting it and integrating it now, or it's a conversation they want to have right now. As they get bigger, it's more, that's a really interesting concept. Let's keep having conversations about it. But the hurdle to get over for introducing crypto to their users and changing their CDN stack, just the layers of complexity and the layers of approval processes are a mile longer than like a small nimble platform like us that can just, we get our teams together and we can make a decision right now. So we are actively having those conversations also with the larger ones, but we know that's a longer term discussion. It's not something where one or two calls with household name video platform where they're just gonna make a call like that and make a dramatic shift in their CDN stack.
Yeah. So I look at this as good news and bad news. The bad news is this is going to take a while for this to reach adoption. But the good news is there's two sides to every coin. The good news is that we're so super early with this whole technology. And, most of the people watching this video, they're really in it for the money. They're buying maybe they're buying the Theta token, the Theta coin, in hopes of making some good money. I look at it, the good news, because it means we're so super early, and some people get impatient. They're like wanting, their moon Lambo like in a month. But so, bad news. This may take a couple of years to really take off. 2 years is really nothing. I don't know what the time frame is. This is an arbitrary number I'm pulling out, but this will obviously take some time. But we're so early with this, I'd rather be early than late. I don't want to be buying any stocks in Netflix now. I'd rather buy Netflix stocks, a stock when it was like $1.50. So to me, and I know you don't want to talk investment, but to me, this is like similar to buying like an early adoption of like a Google or Netflix or something like that. That's the way I look at it. So good news, bad news. It's going to take some time, but nobody gets wealthy overnight, and you don't want to get wealthy overnight. You want it to take a few years and then go from there. So.
Yeah, well, and I get that, especially at get to where the cliche is true that a week feels like a year, and so on, just because so much is changing so fast, and that's true for us too. What has been a little under 3 years that you've been at it feels like we've been at this for much longer. But really in the big picture, it's actually pretty short compared to most startups and what it takes to get to what actually emerges to what people know is like the finished product in the mainstream. So I empathize this with how it feels like you want the instant gratification, but as long as we're still making incremental progress here, and as long as we're still well funded to know that we can make it to the finish line, which is totally true of Theta Labs, that gives me confidence too, because as much as you can be patient, it's also true for a lot of companies that they have the right idea, but if they don't find product market fit fast enough and they don't find the first customers or partners to onboard, you simply run out of road. So I fear that's maybe true of a lot of the crypto projects that started around that time but weren't as well funded or didn't manage their funds as well. Unfortunately, good projects just won't make it, but thankfully we've been pretty prudent with that, and have a multi-year runway even if we never fundraised. So
yeah. And speaking of fundraise, so you guys, I think you sold 14% of the Theta tokens to private investors recently. Is that correct?
Actually, none's been sold. We unstaked 14% of it and announced what we were planning to use for hiring additional staff, for marketing, and for business development. We haven't actually, none's actually been used. In fact, you can see it's still sitting at the address it was unstaked from. Because you can read the blog post on Media if you want, but the 2-sentence takeaway is we from our last fundraise from Samsung and Blockchain Ventures, we're funded through at least the end of 2021, but we don't think it's the best use of funds of the project to basically, I don't want to say tread water, but basically we can survive it and continue at our current pace of development for at least 2 years from that point. But I don't think anyone wants us to continue at our current pace of development as we're starting to see more traction, and as the crypto markets are starting to feel like there's more momentum coming back. Now's the time to put our foot on the gas pedal. And actually, just like if a company's growing and they're starting to get their first customers, they don't rest on their laurels. They go out and they raise growth capital so that they can take it not 2x, they can take it 10x as far as development and adoption goes. And so
Yeah.
that's sort of the thinking behind that. It hasn't been used yet because there's no immediate need for the funding given the cash you have on hand, but it was more just in the interest of being transparent with the community that this is sort of earmarked as growth capital and probably will be used in the short to midterm, but hasn't yet at this time.
Yeah. And I appreciate it. And I know Theta investors appreciate your transparency with this whole thing, because, you know, many projects aren't quite as transparent as I wish they would be. But yeah, I appreciate that. Most people appreciate that as well. But it does seem like you guys have stepped on the gas pedal. I'm seeing more and more partnerships or news announcements once or twice per week, it seems like. And I've noticed the fact that you guys are ramping up your partnerships and everything else. So that's good to see that, obviously. Like, let's see, what is your most recent or your most recent two partnerships or announcements that maybe the viewers should be caught up on?
Yeah, I guess from as far as other platforms go, it was two in Korea called Game Talk Talk and Movie Block. Smaller platforms coming up, so not household names, but still we see each one of these is important because first of all, a lot of these, you know, they have small user bases, but they're growing and we want them to grow with us and Theta with it. But two, just because these starting to collect more and more of these platforms that are using the Theta technology and acting as external validation for it, for the protocol. Every single time one of those goes live, that's now part of our demo that we're talking to other video platforms. It's not something that just sits here in isolation. And so being able to show that continued adoption is kind of table stakes when you want to get to the big prize of having the 10 million MAU platform or the 100 million MAU platform use it. Just like if you're starting a services business, you're unlikely to sign up, you know, Amazon or IBM in your first go. They usually like to see some customer validation, and then once they, you know, they'll take a flyer on an Upstart platform, but they won't be usually the first customer in a situation like that. So we think it's important to start building up these small platforms and use that as a case to roll up and get larger and larger platforms on it.
Okay.
And then I guess I should also mention the line out of Japan.
Yeah, I made a note of that. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay.
Yeah, so we are in development right then with basically a Theta version that would live in their Line app, where it would use their Line blockchain and Theta in conjunction, basically Theta for the video delivery, and then we're working out the exact mechanism where it can interact with where TFuel can either convert it to Line token or something along that ways, where you basically piggybacking off of the fact that Line token's already whitelisted in Japan, so that bypasses any regulatory hurdles. Separately, we are working with our investor Gumi out there to get Theta and TFuel on that whitelist, but that's a whole process going through the regulatory thing. And so this is sort of our way of hopefully just a stopgap, and then eventually when Theta and TFuel are whitelisted in Japan and can be legally traded on the exchanges there, then we've already got sort of a beachhead there with Theta TV working there. We've already got some name recognition built up in the Japanese market, and then that'll make it easier to go from there.
Yeah, I remember when I saw the announcement about your integration with Line. Now I use Line
because it's pretty big in Southeast Asia too, right?
It's huge. It's huge in Thailand. I know it's huge in Japan. I use Line every single day. I use Line, so I'm very familiar with the platform. It is such a huge deal here in Asia. Now, what I understand with Line is that basically every Japanese citizen uses Line under the age of 55 or something like that. I mean, it was a staggering number. Basically, everybody uses Line in Japan. That was really, when I read the news about that, I was really excited about that. I made an announcement in my group and my Patreon group, but I think that's a big deal. And I don't know much about this exchange that you guys are working with in Japan. I know very little about that, but can you tell me more about that? And how do the Japanese, how do they accept crypto? Are they as passionate about cryptocurrencies as, say, Korea?
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's probably 80% is passionate, but I don't know if anyone's as passionate as the Koreans about crypto. But yeah, but they're taking a much different approach. Well, I take it back. Korea's taking a more transparent approach with approval and from regulators now compared to 2018.
Mm-hmm.
But Japan, probably more than anyone in the world, like they have a very strict and in a good way, a very transparent and like doable process to get through to be fully regulated. And it's harder to get through, but when you are, it's totally above board. You're not dealing with the kind of like opaque statements you get from US regulators where, you know, one day they say Ethereum's not a security, then they point out this scam that is definitely a security. But then that's, you know, 1% of all the projects they're sitting here wondering, what are you trying to say? Are you sending us a hint with these or not? Japan's got a very obvious system where it says go through these steps, get approved, and then you are totally approved as a virtual asset, not a security, but its own distinct thing, both from a legal standpoint and from an asset class standpoint. And so we're working with Gumi Ventures or Gumi Cryptos out there, who's another investor in Theta.
They're a validator, or they're a validator.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of roots in Japan. They're actually part of Gumi, which Gumi Corporate is a game company that's publicly traded out there on the Nikkei, I think. And so they're helping us. They've invested several times, and they're a validator. And obviously, we've worked a lot with them and met them a bunch of times here and there since they've invested. And so they're helping shepherd us through to which exchange we should get to sponsor us, which is how the process works there. An exchange that wants to list will officially say, we want to list you and sponsor you with the regulators, and then they'll help prep the application with the FSA and the JVCA, I believe is the acronym for the regulators out there. And so it's this whole thing, and it's you know, it's going to be a 6 to 9 month process, I believe. But you know, you jump through all the hoops and you go through it, and you are 100% official for Japan. There's no gray area wondering what your status is, kind of thing. So that's the eventual goal. But you know, for in the interest of time with this line app going to create here, there is some question about just exactly how close that line would be getting, or what would that look like to the regulators if they haven't whitelisted Theta and TFuel yet, but they've got this app that's, you know, directed specifically for the Japanese market, and the users are interacting with this token. Like, would that make us run afoul of them right when we're trying to do the right thing and go through the process with the regulators? And so that's why with the stopgap will work in conjunction with Line. And if there's ever any question about that, the Line token or the Link token they use can be that, at least for the time being. And then obviously the space is a lot more open to us once we go through that whole process, and Theta and TFuel are whitelisted out there.
Okay. Speaking of TFuel, I get a lot of questions about TFuel. You know, when you earn TFuel by watching Theta TV, people want to know, can we ever withdraw that TFuel in the future?
Yeah, so that's something we've there's several different reasons why that's been kind of problematic from the start. And we've talked if you followed along the way, and probably most of them on our social channels know that there's a concern about fraud, of building out anti-fraud, which is in the beginning was the main driver. There's also some question of basically not wanting to necessarily draw attention if we have let's say a somewhat younger user base, at least in the beginning, in the esports space, and there's users that are maybe even under 18 withdrawing TFuel, and there's nothing explicitly wrong with that or illegal or biasing regulations, but that felt like that was something that could be a potential thing we would step in where it creates a big problem, and now we have to answer that. Whereas right now, you know, we feel good about the way we've done things, and specifically to regulation, and, you know, never did a public sale, never made any kind of promises about Theta as an investment.
Mm-hmm.
And we've always kind of done the conservative thing in that regard. And we're worried that this would be one of those where we open up some situation where then there's blowback. And
Mm-hmm.
since things have gone so well, and knock on wood, we've never run afoul of any regulators.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been kind of, let's take the conservative thing there.
Good.
It's not to say we don't know that it's something people have asked about for a while. And while a lot of people like donating to streamers, of course, a lot of people just want to get the TFuel and get to earn for it. So
Yeah.
we're not unaware that it's something that people have been asking for a long time, but you're kind of taking a conservative approach on it. And then the other part of it that sort of align with that thinking is, once we release the edge node software for users who are more of that mindset where they don't, they're not so much the Theta TV user who wants to be part of the ecosystem and donate to the streamer and earn items and that kind of thing. They're more just looking to act kind of like a miner, like, I'll contribute resources, I earn my tokens, and it's a monetary thing for me. The edge node software basically lets you play that role, and you do earn TFuels directly, and your address, it's effectively you're withdrawing it. So once we put that out there, even if it's just in this beta versions, the users kind of bifurcated themselves anyway. And the ones who wanted to stay on the platform and they actually just want to earn because they want to get items, or they want to donate to the streamer and get badges and that kind of thing, they sort of self-selected in that. The ones who wanted to withdraw and they're just running it to earn TFuel and that's it, they simply just started running the edge node software and they got what they wanted.
Okay, right.
So once people kind of split and everyone seemed to be happy with that, then we sort of like, well, that's kind of problem that solves itself.
Okay. So don't hold our breath forever withdrawing TFuel from Theta TV, but just run an edge node if you ever want to withdraw it and sell it on the exchange. So everybody's happy that way.
I would say that's for now. The goal is still to have it in a perfect world where there's no questions about like, say, if we're in Japan and we're whitelisted and everything's okay with everyone, then I would say then that we'd push to have withdrawals open, and that's probably your longer term goal. But yeah, for now, I think the answer is, if you just want to earn and take the TFuel, then just run the edge node. We want to have as many edge nodes running as possible anyway, because then that's just showing that edge network getting stronger and stronger.
Right. On the whole TFuel thing, I really like TFuel. That's a cool logo, by the way. Whoever designed that gets a thumbs up.
Yeah, that's our designers, Vera and Mike. So all credit to them.
Good job on that. All right, so like within Theta TV, so right now it looks like you can actually buy games. You can download games. You can buy apparel. You can buy gaming gear. I think mice. I think I saw a video card on there. Like I said, apparel. And you can obviously tip streamers, tip VOD operators. What else can you do with TFuel? And you mentioned badges. What do you see in the future that you might be able to buy with TFuel within Theta TV?
Yeah, within Theta TV, a lot of the applications are here, and I think donating to streamers is probably, especially from their end, that's the most important one to them, because some of them, it's actually an income source to them. They actually make a living off of it. But beyond what's there already, what I think is really interesting is we mentioned our roadmap that our smart contract support on Theta is moving to mainnet this quarter. And part of that, along with that, we've written a bit hinting about it, but NFTs coming to Theta is something we're really excited about too, because on the Theta TV use case, it actually fits in pretty well, as opposed to just making them to make them like a piece of art. Our streamers have actually asked to have these, because to them, that's the way they have badges they can give to their fans, and they can show support for them. This is like that on steroids, because the super fans of whether it's esports streamer or whether it's you're streaming. I know you've got a good number of followers on Theta TV now, and if you wanted to make the specifically the DD badge, or like a limited edition one that goes out to like the most loyal fans or something like that, that's then possible. And it can and since it's on Theta blockchain, it's the same API that can pull the TFuel balance and allows them to donate. that can all just be pulled automatically and displayed in the user interface for them when they log in.
Mm-hmm.
So we think it's actually a really natural thing to bring to that, and one that's going to fit seamlessly in and actually make sense. So we always love to deliver features that our users, whether it's the viewers or in this case the streamers, when they're asking for them, that's the best way to know that it's not just something we think is cool internally and we hope that it lands well. It's answering a call that we heard from the existing streamers.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting about the NFTs, about having like a VIP badge or something, or a #1 fan badge. That's really, really interesting. I mean, I guess this is such a broad topic about where this could really go. Where could the NFT market really go just within Theta TV alone? So, I mean, yeah, I mean, you could actually, okay, I'm kind of brainstorming here with you. Okay. If you can help me out here. So if someone were to create an NFT, let's say like there's only one to ever exist, like a VIP, the ultimate VIP winner, whatever, golden patch or whatever. Now, that could be rewarded to like the #1 fan, for example. Now, could a content creator there create something, a rare NFT that only one exists, for example, and sell that within the system, within the ecosystem?
Yeah. So, as part of that, of course, there needs to be some way of I don't want to let slip too much of what we have in mind here, but there obviously, for something to have value, there has to be a way to exchange it.
Yeah.
So yes, there has to be a way that they can either sell it or just to know for a user if they get it, a rare item, just like whether it's CS:GO or other games where there's a valuable item, you have to have a place where it can have value, it can be traded, you can understand what it's worth. Sure.
All right, really exciting. Now I'm seeing some of these NFTs that they're selling for like 8,000 Ethereum and 100 Ethereum, and I mean it's crazy. These are like collectible cars or whatever they are. So I mean this is a big deal, the whole NFT market, and you got the fact that you guys will be integrating that or having that as an option to create. This is great. I mean, I'm more excited about it now after the last 2 minutes as I was prior to this. That's great.
Yeah, it's and this is even when a lot of these it's not even, it's very nascent what they're building out. Like a lot of these seem to be bought for these incredible prices almost as a gimmick, and so for it to be selling for this much when people are still just kind of messing around in the sandbox with that, I think it tells you just how big it could be if this became something where it's integrated at a lot bigger scale. I mean, it's just like some of these products, they were a little too early, but in 2017, 2018, they were looking at going after that because they're looking at the non-NFT market for some of these items. And it's rampant with fraud. We know that from the early days where the CS:GO streamers on Theta TV would be selling CS:GO skins, and there was a ton of fraud associated with it. It became a big problem for us because it wasn't specific to us. It was just that's true all over the place with like OP skins and these guys that were selling them at the time. So if it's that large of a market with all these problems, and something like NFTs can solve it because now it's provable that you have the legitimate one and the scarcity is provable, it's clear that there's a huge market to go after. We're still just playing around. Us and all the other products that are looking at NFTs are just playing around with what's the exact fit or how do we tackle this, but there's something there for sure. It's just a matter of unlocking how you get that $100 million, $1 billion market working with the NFTs that are creating.
Now these NFTs can be removed from the platform?
I don't know how it's going to work exactly yet because this is still actually being built out ahead of the smart contract launch. So I don't want to speak out of turn. JE and Co would probably be better to answer that.
Sure. Okay. Now you're leading. I was going to ask about the smart contract launch. Now that's coming up soon, this quarter. I mean, we're in Q4 now. That's coming up very soon. Now, what I understand, and I hope I made a video about this before. I hope I'm accurate. And maybe you can clarify that projects currently on Ethereum can, after the smart contract launch, can basically copy paste their project over to Theta Network. Is that
yes?
How much truth is that? That's true. Yes. Okay.
true to the extent that me with very little programming knowledge, you know, nothing more than being able to write a API call or anything. I was able to deploy Ethereum smart contracts on our Theta testnet already with what we released 2 months ago, and literally copied off the smart contract on Etherscan, put it through like Remix, and took the output, pasted it on Theta testnet through the Theta wallet, and ran it. Same codes, created the same test tokens. In fact, I think that's the example I used when I wrote up one of the blogs, is creating basically the equivalent of a ERC20 token. Yeah, that's already, you can do that on the testnet now. Now there's a lot more creature comforts we have to build out so that it's as it's a more enjoyable experience for developers, but that's already true now that you can just copy and paste a contract over. So yeah, and that's not obviously not by accident. We don't want to have to go through a process of winning over or simply paying developers to go build for Theta, like some of these other projects that use totally different smart contracting languages environments have had to do. It's a very painful experience and a very costly one. And maybe if you're US with $1 billion, but even then it still really didn't work for them. They still weren't able to pull away any significant amount of the Ethereum development community. We think it's a lot smarter approach to say that we're not asking you to switch. We're saying this is basically just a different flavor of what you're doing already. If you already know Solidity, if you already built this contract, it can be deployed on Theta just the same.
At probably 1/100th the cost to transfer tokens compared to Ethereum.
Yeah, that's true. And there's different trade-offs with each system you want to do, but that's a big one for Theta, is that if you try to use Uniswap on the busiest days, you're looking at $50 gas fees, and you better hope the purchase you're trying to make is larger than that to even justify it. So yeah, certainly that wouldn't be the case now for Theta.
Yeah. So how do you, I know we need to wrap this up. We're almost at an hour. How do you, are you guys like marketing? Like, how are you going about telling these devs that you have the option to switch over to Theta? Are you like reaching out? Are you doing marketing? Or trade shows? I mean, no trade shows going on now probably, but how are you guys doing that?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say it's so much doing a full court press to try to steal away developers, because we're always trying to build out more functionality for Theta. But that said, we aren't. This is not announcing that we're entering the smart contract wars and that we're trying to be ETH killer or anything like that. The focus is still video delivery and, to an extent, expanding to other ways of using your device's resources to contribute to this edge network. But everything builds off of that. So to the extent we want to add functionality for NFTs or for trading things on chain and that kind of thing, it's only to the extent that it benefits what we're focusing on, because we don't want to drift so much that we forget what our niches that we've been successful at. And by far the most successful project trying to make video delivery a better experience with blockchain. We don't want to give that up by trying to be too many things to too many people, and then all of a sudden we're jumping at the latest thing over here because this is what Ethereum's doing, or Filecoin's launching, so now they're doing this, and you pivot this way. I would say we're expanding the box, but we're not forgetting what our use case is. And so we're not trying to just go to every developer and say, you were building something that has nothing to do with Theta, just do it on Theta because it's a better Ethereum. It's not like that. It's more just giving the people that are excited about building stuff on Theta, we just give them a lot more ammo, more weapons to do it with.
Okay, I got you. Because your roots, at least for Theta TV, and it used to be Sliver TV, the roots are, like you said earlier, was the gaming niche, and it still is, really. That's the way the Twitch TV has that gaming feel about it, and maybe that'll evolve over time. Do you? And I guess you guys are basically a Twitch competitor, but in your own way. You're not trying to be a Twitch killer either, I don't think. Do you have something that you would offer, some unique selling proposition that you would offer to like gamers to come over? I mean, why would a gamer switch from say Twitch to Theta TV? What kind of USP would you offer to them?
Yeah. So part of it is for if you're not in the top tier of gamers from an earning potential standpoint, you have if you're a ninja or one at that level, the number of eyeballs is just your max
Yeah,
criteria right now. So
Ninja the streamer. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
There's no selling proposition is going to trump just I get sponsorship dollars based on the fact that I got 20,000 people watching this stream right now.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to trump that. But for all of these lower to mid tier ones that are, including ones that are growing, they aren't looking just at that. They're looking for a place where they can build a fan base, and also in the case of Theta TV, where you can monetize all the users that you have that are all a little bit of the TFuel from all of them goes to you as a streamer. So it's not it's a little different value prop depending on who you are. If you are the household name in streaming, then you might not. Then you're probably not going to look at that as a good selling proposition. But there's a huge roster of streamers below that where even just apples to apples today, if you switch to Theta TV, you're going to make more money than you are today. And so that's even besides being able to sell, there's a more dedicated community, and there's a lot of focus on users giving back and like building up their fan bases. That even if you forget all that, it's simply the bottom line is better for you if you come to Theta TV today, and that's usually a pretty good selling proposition.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. Yeah, that's good. Like I said, I really like the platform so far. It's got a very comfy feeling about it when I get on there. I really like it. And so far, Crazy for Cryptos, Crazy number 4 cryptos plural. That's my channel. If you guys want to check it out, I've got 500 maybe subs so far, which is pretty cool. I got 520, 540 or something subs like that. That's pretty exciting. It's not.
Yeah. Make sure to send more your way. We'll put you out to the Theta community because it's there's at least I think about 100,000 combined our social channels that maybe just haven't discovered individual channels or don't even realize there's VODs to go to yet. So I'm sure that number will just keep growing. Because
you haven't really officially announced the VOD anyways of video on demand.
Yeah, that's right. It'll kick off 15th PST here. So and it'll continue for the next 7 to 10 days or so. We've got a bunch of unique content coming over specifically for this launch week. I think is what we're thinking of it as.
Okay. Well, it's very exciting. I really got my attention when you guys announced video on demand because I'm not a live streamer currently. I've not done any live streams. Maybe in the future. I'm sure anything's possible. But, I like the video on demand. A lot of people like that. Some people don't like live streams. Some people don't like to do live streams. Some people don't like to watch live streams. They like a canned video, so to speak. And I was really excited to hear about the VOD when I spoke with Jane Kim a couple of months ago. She announced, said that was going to come this month, and it sure enough did, which is really cool. All right, Wes, this is pretty much it. Just any last thing you want to say? Any groundbreaking news that nobody knows about that you could share here?
I could, but off the cuff, I'll probably get in trouble if I spell something like that. But okay. I would say keep watching our VOD launch week because it is possible along the way that we might be sharing some brand new news on that. So yeah, I guess that's kind of cheap. I'm making you all come and watch the VOD launch to get the juiciest stuff, but it'll be a good showing for the next week.
Okay, very good, awesome. And I will have my premiere video there in about a week during this whole launch process. So I understand you guys will promote this for like 24 hours or something, maybe do some banners. So I appreciate that. Yeah, very awesome. So happy to be part of this. So awesome, thanks a lot. So, all right. Well, Wes, that's it, man. We're right at an hour. So we'll go and end this. And I really appreciate you taking the time to do this interview. A lot of great information. I learned quite a bit. So thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave. We'll look forward to this video and your video on Theta for launch week.
All right, man. All right. Cheers. Take care, Wes.
All right. Yeah, take care.
Bye.